The timing of this could not have been better. I just got in from the gym, hence the gym attire here, and my meals from Factor were sitting there right in front of the door. So fitness starts with food, and Factor makes that so easy. There's no prep. It's just take one of these meals out, throw it in the microwave for 2 minutes, and that's it. Factor supports wholesome eating made simple. They offer meal plans with a ton of variety because there's a rotating menu of 25 plus meal options. So to quote Brad Pitt in Seven, what's in the box? So here's what we got. Thai almond chicken. It's not gonna get much better than that. Argentinian chimichurri shredded beef. Vegan Thai green curry. Oh. Tomato and roasted vegetable risotto. Last, certainly not least, island pineapple chicken. Oh my gosh, which one do I want to go with? I'm gonna go with my gut here. Get it? Because it's food, my gut. I'm gonna go with the first one I pulled out there, which was the Thai almond chicken. So here's what it looks like when it's delivered to you. And it's really as simple as piercing this a few times, the fork, throw it in the microscopic wave, 2 minutes. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Could it be? Ooh, that is hot. Check that out. This smells incredible. Wish this was smell-o-vision. I'm gonna dive in here just a little bit. That's incredible. I love that Thai sauce. The thing I love about Factor is obviously the convenience, but also how easy it is to stay on my wellness goals. So over the last 6 days, I was in Nashville, Vegas, and then Dallas, and I actually just packed these up into a little cooler and took them with me so I didn't have to worry about trying to find healthy food in the cities that I was in, because I already had it right with me. And Factor is hooking you up large. Go to go.factor75.com/CVV130 and use the code CVV130. They're gonna give you $130 off across 6 boxes. So it's go.factor75.com/CVV130. Use that code CVV130. And I mean, what a hookup, $130 across 6 boxes. Now you'll have to excuse me while I finish this meal, and I might even dive into another one, and I'm sure you don't want to hear cutting and chewing, so enjoy this chat with TJP. This is a first for the show. It's the first baby. Oh, on cue, he's even saying stuff back there. I think you need to grab him.
Yeah, I'll grab him.
Yeah, even though you got all situated with the headset and everything. Oh, James is making his podcast debut on Insight. Here he is. Does he speak yet? How old is he?
He's going to be one in a few weeks.
You're going to be able to put those back on?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
James, you got to base me now.
Uh-oh. It's almost James's birthday. Oh, that one's turned, this is great. Oh, James now has something to play with. This works out perfectly. Well, happy early birthday, buddy.
Say you're excited, pal. Say hi.
This is great. Look at him. Oh, man.
Yeah, he's got actually this shirt was made by Jade Chung and a gift from Josh Alexander. And we got Jordans and this Kobe Filipino shirt, homemade.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. This was the biggest dream I've ever had. It's funny. Like, I only care about wrestling so much as hoping it would lead me to this someday. And now that I got it, I'm like, man, do I stop wrestling?
Well, not only did wrestling lead you to this, wrestling led you to the person you made this with. Like,
yes,
wrestling led you to Aria Blake. You guys are now engaged, so congratulations on that too.
Thank you. Yeah.
And now look at this, you made a person.
Yeah, I always tell her if she wants to just go ahead, I'll be the stay-at-home dad, and she makes her career jumps, then go ahead, I'll stay home. She's like, what are you talking about? You're in the middle of...
Oh, we got the slobber happening. Oh, good stuff,
boy.
Buddy. Wow.
He likes this. He likes when I... Wow! He stands now, actually. He just started standing about a week ago.
Oh, so walking's not far away now.
No. And he barely learned how to crawl, but now he's standing. He's a strong kid.
He wants to like get out. Look at it.
Yeah, he's going to be a bruiser, man.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to keep him off a field or court or something someday.
In like 18 years, it can be TJP versus James.
That, Dave Penzer says I'm not allowed to quit until he's old enough to be in a tag match with me, and he refuses to quit until he can announce it.
Well, the great thing is when you're in your 50s, you'll still look the same. You haven't aged ever.
Well, we'll see if my knees and my back will agree with that. But, I think we talked about this. It's like Mr. Miyagi. Like I'll look like this. I'll look 30 and under until I'm 64. And then out of nowhere, I look like Mr. Miyagi. Yeah, I wake up and look like that.
What would you say, being a father, what's the biggest change that has happened for you?
Stuff that I kind of always thought would be the case.
Okay, maybe he needs to go back in his playpen.
Hey, let's go back in your...
Say goodbye, buddy.
Let's go back in your ring, bud.
Yeah, he has his own little ring over here. We'll put him away here. I like that one of his toys that was in there was the Tag Team Championship. Yeah. Oh, look at this. We even have a camera on it. That looks like a creepy baby camera that we have in the studio that was just randomly set up for this. Now we have people outside looking at all this. Wow, yes, we've got an infant here for you to look at. Man, okay.
But I mean, everything that I kind of expected is really all the big changes. I want to spend all my time with the family, obviously, and I've always been kind of a homebody just without the family. Like, I think people have an outside perception of me, like I'm very social or outgoing. A lot of people think I'm an asshole.
What? Really?
But honestly, like I've always been like I'm. Was it like when you don't announce when you're leaving like a party or whatever? Is that the Irish goodbye? Is that what they say?
I think yeah.
I'm the king of that. If I go out with the guys,
the Houdini.
Yeah, like if I go out with everybody, I'm usually the first to get back to the room. I just want to like pick up a video game controller or call, my significant other or something like that, and just kind of be in. And so,
he's got a lot to say.
Yeah, he's cutting his first promos today.
This is great. I love that when you texted me an hour ago, you're like, so, like, some plans changed. Is it okay if James comes to the studio? Like, I for sure thought the rest of that text was going to be like, some plans changed. I got to look after him now. I did not expect that to be, I'm going to bring a baby to the interview.
Hey, buddy, do you want to watch? Should he watch like TV in the other room or something?
No, this is totally fine.
Yeah, let me know if the noise is too much. We can.
I think we've introduced that he's here. It's not like there's just he found a new toy. He's great.
His bottle cap, yeah.
He's playing with a bottle cap, so it's going to be okay. And we've learned that this camera up here is a baby cam.
Yeah,
so.
He's got the WrestleMania 10 camera.
Can we punch that up again? That was so good. Look at this. At any point in time, you could just call for that. Call for the WrestleMania 10 cam.
I got to teach him to find the camera.
This actually reminds me a little bit of the find the hard cam. It reminds me a little bit of the when Impact very early on had the jib cam, the crane cam.
Oh yeah.
Nobody else was doing that in wrestling.
Yeah.
I was talking about that recently with Chris Harris. We were talking about the Elix Skipper cage walk to the Hurricane Rana.
Yeah.
And I'm like, one of the things that made that so cool is the crane folled him along.
It's so cinematic. It's following him.
Yes. Yeah. Because usually we'd be looking way up at that.
Yes, yeah. Or like a hard cam shot where it's really wide.
Yeah.
I remember during the time when I was suicide, I had a kind of I guess like a dangerous ladder type moment. They weren't, I don't think they had that same camera at the time. And so it was just kind of a wide shot. It looks cool because you see the whole arena. It was at the time when they were doing sort of like bigger arenas, kind of like AEW size now.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the same as that one camera. That camera in the Impact Zone that they had. That's always very cool.
So it's kind of like a blessing in disguise for you right now. You were saying that like you're doing a lot of New Japan dates.
Yeah.
This is great. So you get to spend more time with the family.
Yeah. So it's tough being away, but it is, I'll tell the younger guys on tour, you know, especially when it's like their first tour. I just did the Best of the Super Juniors. Some of the guys, it was their first tour or one of their first tours, or they're just young guys, you know. And I would tell them, like, when I first started, and this is going to age me really bad, but when I was first going overseas and, like, to Japan, Mexico, and on these long tours, and this was, like, 2002, so now this is going back 20 years, you know, there was no... Like, I couldn't FaceTime. Like, if I had a family, then I couldn't FaceTime the kid in the morning or anything. Now, every day, I can do that, and it's great. And but before, it was like there was not even, like, Wi-Fi. You had to go to internet cafe. So you had to, like,
type an email out.
Yeah, you had to take a taxi, like, and reserve an hour on this computer to check an email, or like buy a phone card from 7-Eleven, walk to you know, a strange payphone on the street in the middle of the night, and you got 15 minutes before time is up.
And it costs you like $2 a minute or something.
Yeah, and 100% chance you're going to fight with your wife or girlfriend on that call. So you have 15 minutes to get shouted at, and then you got to walk like a doofus back to 7-Eleven and buy 3 more cards so you could get yelled at for 30 more minutes.
Nice.
You know?
It's different now. Now you can FaceTime, and I mean, it's like you're there.
Yeah, it's a lot better now, and I like this schedule. It's hard to be away, say, for like 2-3 weeks. And this last one, I was away for almost 2 months, and so I compared it to, it's almost like being like a military dad. Like I'm being deployed or something like that, and it's like, oh well, Dad's gonna be gone a while. It's not like if I was in WWE still. But on that note, I sort of prefer it, because now when I'm home.
Yeah.
So now it's like, if I get a few weeks off before the next tour, or a month off, like this time I got like a month off, or 2 months off actually. So I could work if I want to. Otherwise, I'm just home, and that's nice. It's nice to know that it's like, all right, sorry, I gotta leave every Friday morning, and I won't be back till Tuesday, you know, and then that kind of sucks.
But it must be difficult, because especially at the age that he's at, if you're gone for 2 months, you're gone for like 20% of his life.
Yeah, well, we were, I don't know if Aria was. Maybe she didn't think about it because she was here every day, but like, for me, I was nervous I was going to miss milestones. But thankfully, everything worked out. That most of his firsts, he's almost done with all his firsts. Like, I think technically we're counting Dad as his first work.
Hey, congrats. Wow.
He muttered it the other day. I don't know if he knows what it is. So we're only 50% confirming that that's his first word.
Was it clear, or were you like, I think that might have been Dada?
So he started with Dad like a couple times, and then he fired it off like 27 times in a row. So we don't know if he's just learning a new sound, or if he's starting to pick up on, because we try to teach him like Mama, Dada, and stuff like that. But, you know, I was like 3 days after I got home, he stood up for the first time. So I got home from Japan, and we were just sitting in the living room, and he stood up and just looked at us and then sat down. And he doesn't do it the easy way either. He doesn't use like furniture or the walls of like his crib or anything. He gets like he's gonna crawl, and then he puts his butt in the air like he's doing downward dog. He's been doing this for a while, and then when he's in that position, he pushes all the way up. So he does it the hard way. I guess it's like his dad. He does everything difficult and doesn't listen to reason or do something more easy. But I haven't missed anything. I was there when he sat up for the first time, when he crawled, and so we've been lucky. And I think if I'm
walking is soon.
Yeah, if I'm able to see him take his first steps and run and bash his head for the first time, then I think we've cleared all the milestones, and then it becomes a little easier to go away, because then you're not worried about missing things. And then later on, I just got to make sure I make the football games and stuff. So.
Although I've heard a lot of couples be like, the reason I don't want to be away is like, I don't want to, like right now it's 50-50, you know, when I'm away, it's then 100% on my partner, and I just then feel awful.
Yeah, that's a big part of it for me. So we like I've been away obviously before, and I don't think Aria's ever, I don't think she's ever like, been exposed to this sort of like travel schedule, like at this level of like the business and stuff. And, like with MLW, which is where she was before, it was, you know, like American TV style stuff with tapings and everything. So this was kind of like our way of learning, like what does she need when I'm gone? Because you think about it, you kind of know it, but until you experience it, you don't really I guess, especially being the guy, like until you get yelled at for it, you don't really know what you got to do. So it's like,
now I know.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, I got to find a good cleaner, a house cleaner, so she doesn't always have to clean.
Oh, okay.
Or like for the pets in the backyard, we found a pet service that will clean up pet bathroom mess.
Oh,
so
okay.
we were able to find little things like that can help her, and then we have there's friends and people around. His primary babysitter is actually Melissa Santos and Brian Cage. So
Both of them have sat right there.
yeah,
Wow.
and actually shout out to Renee, because she was the one that helped me find those services, cleaning and stuff like that. Because when her and John were still out here, she kind of ran into the same thing. Like, man, it's so hard to have the kid and to, be overwhelmed with certain tasks. And so I texted them from Japan one day. I said, guys, I'm dying here. I need some help. I'm against the firing range right now. I gotta figure something out. And she was like, no, call this place. This is great. So thank you, Renee, if you see this. I appreciate it. You saved my life.
It's been almost 3 years. I think it's been a little over 3 years since we sat down. It was Double or Nothing weekend 2019.
That's right, yeah.
You were so gracious because you had just flown in that morning. You came straight from the airport to our hotel. We were staying at the Excalibur because it was across the street from the MGM Grand.
Yeah.
And much cheaper than the MGM Grand. And you came right over and did that interview with us. And it was not long after you had left WWE. And it was pretty big news at the time that you were making more money after leaving WWE.
Yeah, I actually think that was my first interview or podcast thing.
I think so.
And of any sort, at that time. It was very new.
We got interrupted by room service, not room service, but like housekeeping.
Oh yeah,
in the middle of the interview.
Yes, I remember that. And yeah, I do. I remember us talking about that. And God, fans will fight over anything. Give them any bit of information, they'll fight with each other over anything.
Well, I think people wanted to see that as a negative against WWE, but I saw it as a positive of look how good you are getting yourself booked.
Well, and I actually just talked loosely about not about me specifically in that time or that story, but I was talking with some of the guys this past weekend. We were at Starcast. Mm-hmm. And New Japan had a show there, and just when I see that, I didn't look at it as a validation for me or anything. I don't really tend to look at a lot of this stuff personally, how I'm connected to it. But what I kind of got out of that experience, and what we're talking about as far as being able to earn in the business that people are able to do, in or out of WWE or anywhere, AEW, anything.
Sure.
Just the importance of people to understand, business 101 and basic building blocks of capitalism and just how to be a responsible adult, I guess. A lot of people, especially this past generation, for several generations, and you hear it a lot, and mostly in a critical way, and I hate to say it this way because I don't want people to take it as critical, but there's validity in the not label but statement, but people playing wrestler. But people play a lot of things in life. People play doctor, people play whatever, and they get into their professions. They don't really maximize it for what it's meant to be. They're just happy to be able to call themselves whatever that is, an architect, anything. And it's no, you don't have to just be an architect. Here's how you could be an architect that creates this, and you're an entrepreneur, and you start using that to do other things. And I would tell guys now, having kind of experienced it and making more money than what I was before in certain cases and in a lot of general ways, just find ways to create that business. You have to make yourself a business person. And a lot of people you're going to work for, and it's kind of sad, but they're not business people. They don't know what they're doing with their money. That's why you see a lot of wrestling companies will rise and fall and die out of nowhere because they don't really know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I tell guys, a way to keep yourself valuable but also help everybody around you is to find all those little things that create money generation for everybody. So this way, you know, it's not just a personal thing. So I didn't, I saw it as me like kind of going back to school a little bit. Like it wasn't really like, oh, this is how good I am, see how much I'm earning. It was no, like look how much I'm figuring out about life.
So
really
if you were to break it down percentage wise, how much are you making from actual bookings and how much are you making from other stuff like merchandise or from cameos or other things like that?
It'd be hard to make a pie chart in that way, even like a rough one. I don't know how I'd put a number, but one thing I would say, like when I do look at that, like in a ballpark sort of way, I think people would be surprised that it's not like 98% wrestling. You know, a lot of people would be surprised. A lot of people assume like I mean, a majority of it obviously is, but then there's so much of it will come from, you know, non-wrestling appearances or like coaching or merchandising or side projects or cameos or little things like that.
What do you mean non-wrestling appearances?
So like, and I guess everybody's different. For me, like I had the opportunity to do a lot of things like with the Filipino community, and we were joking like before we went on
it's you, Joe Coy, and Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao's a god, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's if we were a mafia, he'd be the godfather, of course. But you know, there's little opportunities that will come up for me to monetize appearances, and then also stuff that isn't monetized, just stuff that I feel is like a good thing, like charities, like toy drives for Christmas, things like that. That is involved with like a lot of the Filipino groups that will do certain things with the city, you know, depending on where I am, or just in general. I am kind of unofficially represented by a manager of sorts who also is plugged into this. He's Filipino and part of the Asian community too. So I guess non-wrestling appearances, stuff like that, or like signings, conventions, things like that, you know. So yeah, when I think a lot of people, for themselves or when they look at me or others, they would assume, oh, it's got to be like 95% wrestling. But honestly, it's not.
Well, it was when you started out.
Yeah.
You know, 20 plus years ago.
And I think the key is to find ways for that number to shrink. Like how can you make it not 90% wrestling? How can you make it 80% or 75%?
Well, because, you know, it's, I don't have to tell you this, but it hurts a lot less to sell a T-shirt.
Well, that is why I became a technical wrestler, because I joke, but it is kind of true. You know, if I can get through an event, a match, and know that, man, the other guy didn't have to fall down so much or at all, and I didn't, and the worst thing was I had to stretch their arm or leg out. If I do the octopus hold, they don't even have to go down. They could stay standing. It's fine. In a lot of ways, I kind of created a style for me, not because I just thought it would be cool. Like I did think it was unique and cool, but also because I could help another guy wrestle for 30 years, and I can hopefully do it for 30 years too. You know,
is that the hope? You started in '98, right?
Yeah, this is probably the least responsible part of me, but I have never set a goal or like an outlook on that, like what a hope would be for it. But I think at this point, I think God permitting the wheels don't fall off, I'll go until they do. And then I think I'm reaching a point where now I'm starting to realize that there's value I can offer in the non-wrestling capacity as far as like what I know now. Because I find myself being a coach when I didn't intend to be, and guys come to me, and I've never not been the young guy in the room. You know, and I guess I am still a young guy in the room in some ways, but like guys come to me like, hey, you need to help me with this, or what do you think about this? I'm like, well, I can. I just never thought I would be in this position. It's been so long.
Well, next year's 25 years.
Yeah.
Look at how many people. This is like person number 10 that has said hello to James.
Look at James standing up.
James is loving it. Look at that. Man. Oh, and of course we've got the WrestleMania 10 cam there. Yeah, look at that.
Say hey, James.
Wow. Yeah, next year's 25 years in the biz for you.
Yeah.
Wow.
25 years.
Because you started when you were James's age. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely his size. For sure.
I just think that's so crazy when you told me last time that you started at 15. Like, I can't imagine an indie now booking a 15-year-old.
Yeah, 13 actually.
13.
Yeah. And I don't
Wait,
know.
so not 98 then.
No, 98.
Okay.
98, yeah. 98, I was 13. I remember because I was starting high school, and I thought I wouldn't try to wrestle yet. I wanted to join the amateur team. My school didn't have one. So that accelerated my idea, like, well, I guess I'll just see, And then I met a kid in summer school before freshman year started. You could get some of the classes done or started a little early. There was a kid there that had a local wrestling school shirt. And that was foreign to me at the time. Because remember, there's like no internet then. You don't really, there's no way to, you had AOL.com, like, so you could go to like WWF.com and like check the hotline, but there was no way to like, unless you were really savvy with like, and there weren't even that many message boards at the time. You had to join little chat groups or whatever.
You did, yeah.
Yeah, like, so a lot of people there was no way to know. So when I saw that in real life, I was like, what is that? And then as soon as he kind of explained to me, oh, it's a local gym that you can go to. And then I was like, well, I can't amateur wrestle. There's no team, so I guess I'll start now.
I took a screenshot of what you posted the other day on Instagram of your 8th grade yearbook.
Oh, my God. Cutie Patootie.
Name, TJ Perkins. Nickname, Cutie Patootie, but Patootie is spelled Pettie.
Yeah, my mom filled that out. I'm historically bad with obligations like that. I used to skip school pictures a lot, like you take them early in the year or whatever, and I would not go. So there's some yearbooks where I don't have a picture.
Oh,
so people think like, why were you just not in school? And it's like, I was in school. I just
didn't want to be there for picture day.
It's not that I didn't want to. They were just like, all right, you guys got to go and take this pic. I still do this now at work. Okay, we need you to take pictures at 2 p.m. at this, in the gymnasium or whatever. The backdrops all set up, and everybody would go, and I would just not go.
Why?
I don't know. I just didn't feel like it. So I would sit at the picnic tables and eat a snack or something. I still do that now. Like,
but we really need a picture of
somebody.
you, TJ.
Somebody asked me recently for an updated promo picture. I said I don't have any, and they're like, "How do you not have any?" Yeah. And they're like, "You were just in the best of the Super Juniors. You won the junior tag title. Surely somebody has taken a picture of you."
Yeah.
I was like, "No, I haven't." So they're like, "All right, so they have like a 2-year-old Impact picture."
Oh man, that's the one that we'll be using for this episode. Then, sorry.
I don't know. I've always been really bad at that. So yeah, I didn't fill that out.
Well, your special trait is the cool class clown combo.
Well, that's how you know I didn't fill it out. I certainly would not have said I was cool. My mom filled it out and gave me that nickname, which I told her. I said when it was printed, I told her, I said, Mom, that they asked for a nickname in school, not at home. And my mom's on the Filipino side of my family, and she's like, didn't understand. She's like, "Oh, that's what we call you." And I said, "They don't call me that."
I feel like you need to do the Joe Coy voice of his mom, if his Filipino mom.
No, my mom is she's totally whitewashed. She wants to be like Barbie so bad. You would, if you speak to her without seeing her, you would never know she's Filipino.
The best part about this is ambition. You have point guard for the Lakers or sportscaster, and I love that you said originally you would have put pro wrestler.
I did, actually, because when she didn't know what to put for that. So that was blank. And so when I turned the paper in, or the little form for the yearbook, and it was mostly filled out, and I didn't look at it or whatever. And then the teacher was like, well, what do you have to put for occupation? And I used to run into this for career day all the time. And it would always frustrate me. So I took the paper back and I just wrote pro wrestler in and gave it back. And he didn't read it right away, just put it with the other papers. He called me in at lunch or something and was like, yeah, you can't, more or less, I'm paraphrasing, but like, you can't put this as not a realistic goal. And this is, again, like I had dealt with this on career days, you start doing career days, from like 5th, 6th grade on. So like a few years now I had said, I'm going to be a pro wrestler someday. And teachers, no, you're not. Do a real thing, plumber, firefighter, something else. And so
Wow.
I'd have to do a different project. And so at this, I was in, graduating 8th grade. That was my last junior high picture. And I'd had enough of it. So I was like, all right, whatever. What do you want me to put? And he's like, well, what do you like? What would you want to do someday? I said, I don't know. Point guard for the Lakers. And then, which is, in my opinion, more unrealistic.
Way more unrealistic.
And I think they were just happier that I picked something that was a lot more conventional, even if it was unattainable. So it's like, okay, an organized sport that everybody recognizes, but And that's why I added sportcaster, because he kind of like shrugged at that, and I said, well, what if I go into broadcasting or something? And I was like, well, that's something you can get an education for. I don't know, you know. Aria has a degree in journalism, so I don't know why I thought to add that right now, but I figured since I'm with present company, you guys have something in common. I don't know. You guys know your way around this world. But anyway, I put that just so
because you were a Kobe fan. Is that why you put it?
Well, Kobe was a rookie at the time, so he wasn't Kobe yet. People just thought he was an 18-year-old kid that we may get sick of. He wasn't starting. People didn't know if he was any good yet.
Yeah.
I just have always
look
loved
at the crowd for James now. This is amazing.
Wow. James, quit slouching. But yeah, I was always a Laker fan, so I just said, well, I'd like to play for the Lakers. Well, I don't know if you can do that. All right, I'll call Laker games. So he accepted that answer.
Wow.
But then his name was Mr. Maxim. A year later, I was a pro wrestler. So, in your face, Mr. Maxim.
Were you more of a Kobe fan or a Lakers fan?
Lakers fan. I was a Lakers fan since Showtime.
Oh wow.
Yeah, my dad took me to games at the Forum. I still have rally towels from going to the Forum for the playoff games. Nick Van Exel's my favorite Laker ever.
More than Kobe?
Yes.
Oh, I always thought you were like a big-time Kobe guy.
No, I am a big-time Kobe guy. And I think, like, for me, he's like a more transcendent
he is.
Inspiration.
Yeah.
Like, I don't look at him and just think, oh, this guy was shooting guard for the Lakers. I feel like that's almost, like, insulting, because it's like...
Seriously. The man won an Oscar.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's in the realm of, like, Babe Ruth and Muhammad Ali in terms of his influence on the world. Like he's so much more than what he was. But like if I just think about like my favorite Lakers, like just playing basketball growing up, it was always Nick Van Exel.
There's something about also when someone leaves us too early. And I think that you can think, I mean, there's hundreds of names, but you can think of like the legacy that James Dean had, or Heath Ledger, and like the Amy Winehouse, the list goes on and on and on. It's like, what more could they have done if they weren't taken from us so early?
Yeah, and it's I think especially compounding with him, because there was always so many what ifs just about him being hurt and maybe having, what if he would have played a few more healthy years?
Yeah,
because he was so close to like start pushing his statistical bar as far as a basketball player, like past people he was being compared to, and probably to unattainable levels. Like LeBron now has a chance to do it because he's been lucky enough to be healthy for 20 years.
But LeBron's put a real emphasis on being healthy.
Exactly.
Like
and
him and like Tom Brady are doing all of these very unconventional things.
Yeah, so I feel like LeBron and Brady are like sort of like the 2.0 version of what people were thinking Kobe was headed for. But Kobe was doing it at a time when there was no concept of how to preserve yourself. He was just like, I'm going to play every game and do it till I can't. And it was like, wow, like if you're ever going to romanticize a sport or an athlete, it's that guy. He's going to war for 82 games no matter what. And yeah, I think so. There's so many what ifs, like, man, what if he had 3 more healthy years? What if he started his first 2 years? Nobody would score as many points as him. Nobody would have as many titles as him. Maybe, who knows?
One of the most impressive things about his career is how 8 and 24 are like equal chapters of his life where he was equally badass.
You could cut the career in half and have 2 Hall of Famers.
That's insane.
Yeah, I've seen it split and it's even. They're like, if he would have retired when he changed his number, he would have already been a Hall of Famer. So he's had 2 Hall of Fame careers.
And then
together.
he basically, make his first year at 24 as a rookie year, and again, Hall of Fame.
He would have been a
career.
Hall of Famer. Yeah, and to do a decade pretty much with each, it's like, wow, that's a career.
Do you remember finding out about him dying?
Yeah, actually, I put these on the day he died, and I haven't taken them off since.
Wow.
And I found out I was on a U.S. tour for New Japan, and we were in a hotel in Nashville. And I remember getting up in the morning and waiting for the tour bus to pick us up to take us to the arena. And for like about a year, I had an irrational anger every time I saw, God, who are the guys that told me? I'm trying to remember. I don't care anymore, but like at the time, one of the other wrestlers had told me, like, hey, did you hear about Kobe? And for like 6 months after, every time I saw him, I was irrationally angry. And I loved the guy, but I remember thinking, "God, I'm so mad." And I was like, stressed out and just
Don't shoot the
distressed.
messenger.
Yeah, I wanted to shoot the messenger for like a year after that. But yeah, I remember the day that morning very specifically, and I had a match that day. It was me and I think Carl Fredericks, and we wrestled Yano and Cole Cabana, I think.
Mm.
Yeah, and that was also the day that I started using the Mamba Splash or I named it that day. I had been doing it and I didn't have a name for it. Lindsay came up with it, actually. He always called it the NBA Jam because it was like the Vince Carter dunk. And I remember saying, Kobe did that dunk too, under the legs. So that's how I won the dunk contest. So that day I named it the Mamba Splash because of that.
Oh, so that's great. Do you wrestle with those on?
Mm-hmm. I think it drives some people crazy because I still tape my hands up and I'll wear this over the top. And like in Mexico, the actual like medical trainers will tape my hands like, with medical proficiency, not just like crappy, I'm a pro wrestler in a locker room, I don't know what I'm doing proficiency.
Right.
And they're like trying to work around these things. And I'm like, they don't come off, brother. Sorry.
One day they're going to break. It's going to be the saddest day.
Yeah, I know. And I guess I could just add them as tattoos here.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Do you have a Lakers tattoo?
I have a Kobe one.
Oh, yeah. There's 8.
Yeah, and then I have another one back here on the tricep, I think.
What?
His
Oh, yes. I see now.
the
Mamba.
Yeah, the later symbol.
Yeah.
Later in his
You have a Vegas tattoo on the other arm?
Yeah, this one is all, I think we talked about this before.
Yeah.
This arm is all like landmarks of my
Yes.
life.
It's like everywhere you've been.
Yeah, you got
Things you've done.
Santa Monica. It's where
Oh, yeah, the pier.
Yeah, New Japan had scouted me. I got this. This one is, people always think it's a Jason mask, which, I am a horror buff, and it is sort of that, like a slasher mask. But I got it for Canada because I lived in Caledon for a little while.
You lived in Caledon?
Across the street from Josh Alexander when he was just like a chubby youngster trying to get into the business. He told me this later. He was like, yeah, the guys I stayed for were the promoters for UWA. And there's 2 brothers, and they were young guys. And for indie fans that may hear this and don't know, in the mid to late 2000s, they pretty much created like Ring of Honor Canada, like as far as the way the show felt and the types of talent they would book and bring in from out. And the production value was great. And it was just these 2 brothers that had a t-shirt printing company and just put their
A t-shirt printing company. That sounds familiar.
yeah, their dad was like I think a glass blower, like he did windows and stuff.
Wow.
I think he did the windows at the Hockey Hall of Fame.
I was living, I think, in Ontario at the time. I don't remember this.
So then they were still living with their mom, and they had a wrestling school because they got a ring and put it in the warehouse that they did their t-shirt printing. They just printed band t-shirts or whoever needed a run of merch shirts, right?
Man.
And then they started running shows, and they just, one of them was the commentary guy, and the other was a wrestler on the show. And these 2 brothers built this incredible promotion for like a few years. And I lived with them when I just wanted to get into a new part of the world and just, work in a different place. And I thought, the Northeast is right here. I lived in Canada for a while, and the whole time, I guess, they used to like ride bikes with Josh Alexander or something.
Wow. And look at him now.
Yeah.
We need to talk about your hair because you walked in here wearing a hat.
Yeah.
And it looks like you spent half an hour on your hair.
Yeah, no, I've spent the last 7 days not touching it or washing it. So
What?
I don't know. I'm actually not good at doing hair.
Come on. You're known for your hair.
Well, I'm no good at it. And every time I get my hair cut, I always tell the girl will ask, like, well, what do you do? Like, how do you style it? And I'll say, man, I have this really curly hair. It's thick. It's unruly. I don't know how to do it. And they're like, do you want me to straighten or whatever? And I always say, yes, please, because I need to like learn something new about it. And no matter how much I've ever tried, it always I look like Weird Science, like Beaker from, was it the Muppets or something?
Yeah.
And over the course of like 7 days, I don't know, like a burnout rock and roll band guy. I just don't touch my hair or wash it, and then it starts to look like this, and people think that it looks all right.
I think we all need to know what kind of product you're using in there. If it looks like this after 7 days.
Well, I straighten it with a flat iron. I don't know how to use it, so like I said, it's all over the place. And usually I'll tuck it under a hat, and then however it's messed up is how I accept it. And the only product I use, I think right now I'm using that pomade from Suavecito, I think. It's kind of popular.
Oh, yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
Has a picture of like the dude on the front.
It's like a skeleton
Yeah, the
guy. He's like a
skeleton,
greaser. Yeah. So I use that, and I just straighten it, and then I'll mess it up, and then tuck it under a hat, and then like 3 or 4 hours later, however it's been mashed down, I leave it.
It just doesn't
I don't touch it
move.
for 7 or 8 days.
You know, you've been in wrestling so long that you were at UPW the same time that John Cena was at UPW.
Yeah.
That's wild to think about.
I don't know, maybe you picked this up from, because I tweeted about this the other day. Because I think somebody else said it, and they're like, he's been wrestling longer than Cena. And I replied to, I don't reply to a lot, but I replied to that, and I said that's not like, I don't know, like in my head I was like, that's not the flex you think it is. And I was they said fun fact, and I said it's not that fun. Cuz like he's so good and successful, and I'm not anywhere close to John.
Well, nobody is, except for like maybe The Rock.
But yeah, I remember thinking like, I was like, which coincidentally I only started like a year or 2 after The Rock.
That's crazy.
Imagine being sandwiched between those guys and saying, "Wow, how is their career winding down?" With their DC movies and like, and like mine, I'm hoping is still getting started.
You started wrestling during the Attitude Era. You weren't working for WWF, but you started during the Attitude Era.
Yeah, and the Cruiserweight tournament was interesting for me because I remember telling some of the guys, because for a lot of those guys, it was their first wrestling job. Some of them were like personal trainers. They worked in like Best Buy, or like Ali was a cop. Like some of these guys, it was their first wrestling job. They had no experience. They were a little nervous. They didn't really know how to fit in, and like it was their first experience at that level. And I remember telling these guys, I'm like, guys, I'm so old. I could have been in the first Cruiserweight division
in WCW.
Yeah, like that was my goal when I broke in. I remember thinking I want to be like Jericho and Guerrero, like Malenko, Benoit, all these guys that are like putting all these building blocks down. And that, if I was old enough, that's what I would have wanted to be, like I want to wrestle Chavo on Monday Nitro or something. Like
have you wrestled Chavo?
Yes, I have.
Okay, good.
And it's a blast. I love it.
It's very strange to think that you started around the same time as The Rock.
Yeah.
So what are your Marvel movies coming out?
Oh yeah, I think I told that guy my DC movie is in development right now.
You're DC, yeah. DC, not Marvel.
Hopefully I'll just get a bit part on The Boys and call it a day.
Are you interested in acting?
Not especially. I was an actor when I was a kid.
I remember.
Yeah, I still have my headshot. My mom had Hulk Hogan sign it one time. She would keep some of them, of course, because she's a flight attendant. She likes to brag about her son. And she had Hulk Hogan on a flight, and she went into first class and brought him this picture of my headshot and was like, "Will you sign it?" So I have a Hulk Hogan, big tear, signed a headshot, my own headshot.
That's the weirdest thing about it.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder what Hulk Hogan's reaction was.
I would love to bring it to him someday.
You should.
Go see him in his shop or something.
He does the signings at the beach shop all the time.
Yeah, and because, I spent a few years with him, or a year or so, like with him in TNA and working like with him a lot, doing promos and things. And I learned a lot from him. And he was such a gracious person. And he was just so much one of the boys. And I can't stress this enough. He's so like normal to be around. Like he's so down to earth and approachable and like cool. And you wouldn't think that because he's like we're talking about, like Kobe is like where like Muhammad Ali or baby, like Hulk Hogan, Michael Jordan, like these are guys that are like
Hulk Hogan's a cultural icon.
Yeah, in the world, somebody knows what that silhouette looks like. That mustache, the hair, and the ripped up shirt and the yellow and red. Like non-wrestling fans born in the last 10 years in Nicaragua knows what Hulk Hogan is somehow, because there's a transcendent cultural presence with him in pop culture,
Even if you've never watched wrestling a day in your life, you know exactly who Hulk Hogan is.
Yes, I mean Hulk Hogan is wrestling.
Yes.
That's just what it is. And so you would think that he's definitely got the past to not be like a cool guy or a nice guy, but he is. He's great. Jolene, the seamstress, she worked for Impact and works for WWE now. She's a good friend of mine, and she lives in Tampa. And so she was saying one time she was traveling for TV for Impact, and she goes, it was the funniest thing because Hogan comes from the Tampa Clearwater area, so they would be on the same travel like geographically. And she was like, the company for some reason booked us both on Southwest. And it's like, Jolene, I understand.
Yeah.
Or anybody else, I understand.
Yeah.
But not Hulk Hogan. Yeah. Put him on a real flight in first class. If he doesn't have his own accommodation somehow, I don't know what he has or not. But she said it was the funniest thing because he was totally not it didn't matter to him. Like he didn't even think about it. It was like, oh, well, I got to go to this gate. And how does this boarding work? He's standing with like 30 other total strangers with his like stuff. And she's like, I had to say, no, you can't stand here. And she walked him up to the front and said, listen, this is, you know who this is. This is Hulk Hogan. You have to board him ahead of everybody else or different so that he's not because he demands it or because you need to treat him better, but like it's literally going to cause a scene. Like people aren't going to board the plane because they're going to try to talk to him. You gotta like accommodate him differently.
Well, the funny thing about Southwest is you don't get assigned a seat. So you get on the seat and it's kind of like...
So that was the thing. She said he didn't know how to board the plane. So she was like, oh, you have to stand here. But she was like, I wasn't telling him to stand there. I was just explaining to him how it works. And she assumed he obviously has some other accommodation. But he was like everybody else, like, oh, okay, I'll just stand here. It's like, yeah, I'll sign this, brother.
But then the thing is, when you're boarding the plane, you decide like, all right, do I want a window seat? Do I want an aisle seat?
Right.
Do I want to sit next to that person? Do I want to go further to the back of the plane? Everyone would just want to sit near Hulk Hogan, I would think.
Oh yeah, so that's why she was like, you got to get him seated and like kind of help him out here because he was not like he wasn't pulling like a Hogan card. Like he was like not saying like I need this or that. He was like, oh, this is what everybody does. And I'll always remember that story as like, if you've ever met him or spent time with him, that is him in a nutshell.
He's always been so kind to me. I've interviewed him 3 times. And I remember the second interview, he knew exactly where the other interview was, what we talked about, when it was. I was like, are you kidding me? He must do 1,000 interviews a year.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, yeah, I saw you last time, WrestleMania 30 in New Orleans, brother. We talked about this. I'm like, are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
He's one of the boys, like, through and through. I remember, like, we had a talent meeting one time at 3 p.m. A bunch of the guys came out of different locker rooms at the same time. Again, this was, like, when TNA was in, like, different arenas, so we had different locker rooms and stuff. And we're looking for, like, how do we get to the ring? And here he comes out of a locker room. Of course, he did have his own locker room, but he came out just walking with everybody else. Like, what time is this thing at, brother? Like, where are we going? And I was like, I feel like you would either be exempt from this or you're the one running this thing. Like, you're the one that's going to tell us stuff to do. And he was just like anybody else. Like, no, I'm just here to, I'm waiting to get told what to do like everybody else. And I was like, dude, you're so cool. Like, you're so nice for who you are. Yes. You're so nice, you know? And it's not like he's not aware, like he is. I'm sure that there's some ways where he probably like definitely throws his weight around, obviously, but like when you're around him, he looks out for people. He's very down to earth, and he's always been really loyal to people and like looked out for people. Like he's incredible.
And I love hearing stories like this about Hogan, and I love telling the stories that I've had with the interactions I've had with him, because there's a lot of people that think about Hulk Hogan in a certain way.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, that's not going to work for me, brother. And, you know, like,
yeah.
Right. But I remember I was like, we were walking down the hall of the Quicken Loans Arena in Cleveland to do this interview. And I turned to him, I said, thank you. Like, thank you for doing interviews still, because you're at the level where you don't need to do them.
No, yeah.
And he turns to me and he goes, I'm at the level I'm at now because I still do them. And I went, wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. He cares. He doesn't. He. I don't know. It's just he's a dude like everybody else. And I always thought that was the coolest thing when I met him and experienced that with him. So yeah.
Last time you told me you weren't that interested in doing the Cruiserweight Classic, and it was William Regal who talked you into it.
Yeah.
How did he talk you into it?
He just kept asking me to do it. Really, he called me one day.
Okay, Mr. Regal.
I was doing mocap for motion capture, the stunt work for the WWE video game at the time, and
Were you doing it with Eli Drake? Because he does a lot of that.
I don't know if he was there that day, but
Or
yeah,
sorry,
I
Max do.
Yeah, I've done it. I've done it a lot with him. I think I might have been the guy that got him on the crew when he was there.
Okay.
Because I've been doing it for a long time now, and Low Key helped me get on. And I remember from that point on, whenever they would ask, I would try to help get other guys on. So I would get Scorpio Sky on, or Sean Ricker, for a while. Just anybody, right? Kenny King.
Just anybody that lived in LA, basically.
Or just anybody that, like, because they kind of look for certain body types or certain movement or whatever. So, like, I know a guy. And just try to spread the wealth.
Yeah.
Like, try to help pass it on.
Sure. Yeah.
But anyway, I was at mocap, and he left me a voicemail, and then he called back again, and I answered it, and he asked me to do it. I didn't turn it down. Like, I didn't have any reason not necessarily want to do it. What I didn't think I was going to do was sign and stay with the company. But I knew when he asked me, I was like, well, this might be like a generational thing. Like, this could be like the new J-Cup, And I don't particularly care about legacy things. I don't care about my own legacy at all. If I retired today and my wiki disappeared or people never knew I existed, I'd be fine with that, because this is just a job and I'm only doing it to protect my family and all that. I enjoy it. I love it. But in terms of like flagpole moments, I don't care about that. So I don't usually care about this stuff, but I thought, this is going to be something that in history is like going to go, like 20 years from now, some kid's going to be like, man, that Cruiserweight Classic. So I knew I had the foresight to know it was going to be special, because the company never does stuff like this at the time. We're still at the tail end of the FCW era, where I was like, man, this company only likes big dudes, brother. They don't big dudes and models. So that's it. And so I remember thinking, wow, stuff is changing here now. So I'll do this. I'll do this one event. I just didn't think I would stay. But yeah, he called me a couple times, and then he called me a couple more times, and then a few more times, and it was starting to become where he was now looking for help to fill out the rest of the field. He's like, do you know guys from different parts of the world, or who are we missing? Like, what are guys like?
So who'd you get on board then?
I mean, I don't know who I got on board. A lot of the guys may have been people that had already been on the radar, just people I recommended. I think I recommended Dorada,
Grand
Dorada,
Metallic.
Yeah, Metallic, and then some different guys. Because primarily he was asking me in case they were missing international talent. I knew that they had, plenty of domestic talent, but he was like, is there anybody in Mexico or Japan that that we're not seeing? And I would just kind of let him know if there were some people, and I don't know who all they contacted or got for it, or they already knew, but we did it. And then it was after the second round with Gargano, for my match anyway. After that particular part of the tournament was where they put us all in a room, and they were giving us offers one by one, and that was the day I was like, I kept turning them down. I turned them down like 3 times.
And they still let you win the tournament without signing a contract.
Yes, I didn't sign until Clash of the Champions. I had some time between the final and Clash agreed to sign, but I hadn't signed, so I guess I could have left.
But then you won the Cruiserweight Championship.
Yeah, it's a constant, I could have been Medusa. With my friends, we talk about it all the time.
That's got to be a great moment, though. That, like, in hindsight, that has to be a great tentpole flag, planting your flag moment.
Yeah, it was special, and obviously it changed my life in so many ways forever. More importantly to me, I think it gave a lot of people inspiration that they hadn't found it in somebody else. Like, I still meet people all the time that, like, they're young adults now, and they were like maybe kids at the time. God, it's so hard or it's crazy to think that was 6 years ago. But like, or like I'll meet people and they're like, yeah, my kids, like, you're their favorite wrestler, or like, especially with like the Filipino community, like, oh, I watched it with my aunt and uncle or my grandparents. They cried when they saw it. They don't even like wrestling, but it was like just a Filipino doing that.
Yeah.
Like, maybe they don't like boxing, but they cry when Pacquiao wins, because it's like, it means something to see that.
Yeah.
And that was big for me.
Yeah.
More so than like what it was for me personally. It was like this created things that's bigger than me. And I remember thinking, wow, that's crazy. I never would have thought like, kids in the Philippines would be like grouping up all in one house that has the one laptop that they could watch the network on and see this event. It's like when you hear about like a soccer player winning the World Cup and people in his home country are gathering in front of like storefront TVs that are just left on all night so people could watch it on the sidewalk because, somebody's playing in the final. Like, that's what it felt like. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. I never would have thought that.
I can't wait for you to see Joe Coy's new movie, Easter Sunday. It's an entirely Filipino cast.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait to see it.
Lou Diamond Phillips in it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I think I ruined. Oh, it's a spoiler. No, he might be, and I heard a rumor. I don't know. Dude, it's so good to see you.
And thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming by. Thank you for introducing the world to James. He's been behind your back here, very, very popular with everybody walking by.
Let me grab him again.
Oh, grab him. People have been taking photos of him as he's been sitting there. I love that we have this camera. This is so good. I can do a play-by-play. And TJ picks him up, brings him back over to the desk. That's a lot of slobber on your face, buddy. Wow. That's good. Oh, and look at this. He's already won a championship.
Yeah.
Congrats.
You see that?
That's so great.
You see that?
There you go, buddy.
It's not like the Stanley Cup. You can still win it after you touch it. But if you ever, we're trying to make you a hockey player. But so we really don't want him to wrestle, Aria and I. We want him to like go into baseball or hockey or something and make better money and do a cooler sport.
As a Canadian, I've always said hockey's a great sport for Americans to get into. Because if you grow up in Canada playing hockey,
the field,
everyone, right. You grow up playing hockey.
It's like
here,
trying to be a soccer player in Spain or something.
This is exactly what it's like. You grow up being a hockey player here, you've got a much better chance because there's a lot less people playing.
Yes, and hockey is Aria's favorite sport.
Look at those
and
cheeks.
It's my favorite sport too. Big Kings guy. He's got his, I guess they're like Raiders pants on.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, I say they're Kings pants.
So I end every conversation talking about gratitude because it's a big thing for me.
Yeah.
I say out loud when I wake up 3 things I'm grateful for in the morning. What are 3 things you're grateful for?
I usually just say Aria and James 3 times. There's one of my favorite people to follow. They're just like a normal account on Twitter. Usually they do a lot of historical stuff or like some political stuff, but like it's this woman, she's like really smart and like dissects the Constitution a lot, and just she's like a lifelong student. And one of her daily things, and this has nothing to do with that content, but like one of her daily things, she'll say, "What is your good thing today?" And it's just to have people like make a thread, like what's one thing you're happy about today. Every single time I just put a new picture of the kiddo and Aria, usually of them falling asleep on the couch or something. But honestly, that it is. I mean, that's the biggest thing in the world. Isn't my job or what I do anymore. It hardly was before when I was younger, but especially now, setting the bag down and walking in and seeing them fall asleep to like kid shows on Netflix or something that's the dream come true.
He agrees.
Yeah, bud. He likes cars. That's what he likes.
Well, maybe who knows? He could do anything. That's the great thing.
No, the movie.
Oh, the movie car. I thought you meant he likes actual cars, playing with cars.
Microphone, bud?
You want to say something, buddy? Oh, he was so close. He was going to say his one sentence that he knows. Dada. Well, as you put him away there, give him his bottle. I will say, TJP, it's always such a pleasure. I love that we are able to do this in person every time.
No, it works.
Always in Vegas.
Yeah, it works out good. This studio is great.
Yeah, no, we're very grateful to
Way
be able
better
to be
than
here.
the Excalibur.
Excalibur's fine.
I mean, it's good. If I could order a cheeseburger the same way, who's it? Max that ordered room service.
Oh, jeez. He's the worst. MJF is the worst. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, man.
Well, thank you for having me. I can't wait to do it again.
Likewise.